After weeks of silence, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday finally spoke on petrol and diesel prices which are hitting the roof. And there's a reason he opted to do so in the presence of chief ministers of many Indian states. Because the crux of his remarks was, I have reduced my share of excise duty on petrol and diesel and the prices are skyrocketing because you all chief ministers, all non-BJP chief ministers are not reducing your share of VAT or sales tax. My name is Sahil Murli Meghani and today on Checks and Balance, we are fact-checking India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We'll do this in 7 steps. So please stay with us till the very end if you are interested in getting the true picture of who's burning that big fat hole in your pocket. Here's the first level fact check. On Wednesday, April 27th, when the Prime Minister made those remarks, let's take a look at what was the price of petrol in various states. While Prime Minister Narendra Modi based his entire argument on cooperative federalism, the reality is he violated the very essence of it by being extremely biased and misleading in his observations. We'll now tell you how. PM Modi singled out 7 non-BJP states and praised only BJP-ruled states where as per him the prices have gone down. But he conveniently missed out on BJP-led Madhya Pradesh where the price of 1 litre of petrol on Wednesday was 118. For reasons you all can guess, he also missed out Bihar where BJP is in the government and where the price was 116. On the very day Prime Minister Narendra Modi attacked the opposition, both these BJP-ruled states were selling petrol at a higher price than West Bengal, Kerala, Jharkhand and Tamil Nadu. That's 4 out of 7 states that Prime Minister cited to attack the opposition. 118 in Madhya Pradesh, sab changa si, but usse kam ya utna hi elsewhere, bahut mehenga si. What mass is this Prime Minister? In level 2 of our fact check, let's now talk about the money. As we know, to run states, state governments need money, just like the central government. Now, post the implementation of the GST in the year 2017, there are only 2 options left for the states to raise revenue. One option is value added tax or VAT on alcohol, diesel and petrol and land transactions. The second option is GST returns, for which the states are entirely dependent on the central government. Now listen to this carefully. The states which PM Modi unfairly slammed for not reducing their share of taxes, that is VAT on petrol and diesel, are the same states who have not got their GST compensation from the Modi government. Up on your screens, peoples, the numbers you will see are official numbers from Modi government. 3 out of those 7 states that PM Modi criticized are among the states with the highest pending GST compensation that they are yet to receive from the Modi government. These are Maharashtra, West Bengal and Tamil Nadu. As per Modi government's own figures that it gave in the Rajya Sabha just last month, Narendra Modi government owes Maharashtra 11,563 crores, Tamil Nadu 6,733 crores and West Bengal 4,292 crores. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday bragged about how BJP-ruled states have reduced VAT and in the process sacrificed revenue worth 4 to 5,000 crores. Dear Prime Minister, what you owe to 3 out of 7 states you criticize is way more than what your BJP-ruled states sacrifice by reducing VAT. If only you would have not given stepmotherly treatment to non-BJP states, they too would have been in a financial position to afford sacrificing their only source of revenue. The reality, people, is that as per Modi government's own figures, non-BJP states have been deprived of their dues and have been left starving by the Modi government. I am not saying that. Modi government's own figures are speaking that loudly. Not just that. Here's the third point of our fact check. I don't understand how can the Prime Minister put the blame on states while his own government has been steeply increasing excise duty on both petrol and diesel over the last 8 years. People, take a look at these official numbers running on your screens. Excise duty under Prime Minister Narendra Modi has risen sharply in 8 years. Excise duty imposed by Modi government has gone up by a staggering 194% on petrol and a gigantic 585% on diesel. Thank you, Modi ji. Thank you indeed. By the way, how much has your income gone up in the same period? Anyway, let's keep that for another day. Now, while you recover from that, here's point 4 of our fact check. Do you all agree with the fact that jo badhayega, wahi ghatayega na? Or do you expect those who haven't raised tax rates to still slash them down? Let's understand this by taking the example of Telangana, which is one of the 7 states PM Modi unfairly slammed on Wednesday. As already shown, Modi's excise duty on diesel went up by a mammoth 585% over the last 8 years. Do you know how much VAT was Telangana charging on petrol and diesel in 2014? 35.2%. And guess how much VAT is Telangana charging today? 35.2%. There's been zero increase by the state in 8 years. So the Prime Minister of India is expecting the state to reduce the state tax, which it anyway has not increased in 8 long years, just because PM Modi slashed his excise duty on petrol by a meager 5 rupees after having increased it by more than 23 rupees per litre over the last 8 years. Wow, Modi ji, wow. In fact, Telangana's example perfectly nails how Modi government is squarely responsible for the massive rise in petrol prices. Take a look at this comparison up on your screens. This is 2014 versus 2022 comparison of petrol prices in Telangana. There are 3 components to this. One is the cost of crude oil per barrel. Second is Modi's excise duty. And third is the tax imposed by Telangana state government. Look carefully. What has decreased over the last 8 years? Cost of crude oil. What has remained the same? Telangana government's tax rate. What has increased? Modi's excise duty. So people, who is responsible for petrol being sold at 119 rupees in Telangana in 2022, which was available for just 71 rupees in 2014? Does it require rocket science to answer that question? Who or what factor actually led to that price rise? Narendra Modi, India's Prime Minister, I doubt will answer that. But I hope people, you the taxpayer, would have got your answers. Look, it's your money. So if you are still not convinced, then all that the team of Checks and Balance can tell you is that the next 2 points of a fact check will surely nail how the Prime Minister was being economical with truth. Take a good hard look at this graph for your better understanding. All these figures have been sourced from Modi government's Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. The blue line you see is the excise duty collected by Modi government on petrol and diesel over the last 8 years. The red line is the VAT or sales tax collected by state governments in the same period. These figures you are seeing on this graph are in lakh crores. So that 2.03 you see on state's red line is 2.03 lakh crores, and that 3.84 you see on Modi government's blue line is 3.84 lakh crores. Even if those figures are confusing for you, then just focus on the 2 lines on this graph. Look how sharply Modi government's blue line is rising, soaring rather, in comparison to state's red line. From these figures, it's clear that while Modi government's tax collection on petrol and diesel has more than tripled in 8 years. That is, has gone up by a colossal 234%. State tax collection in the same period has just gone up by a pale 48% in comparison. 234% versus 48%. In fact, after 2019, if you look at that red line by the states, it looks like a dead person's heartbeat, while Modi government's blue line looks like a skyscraper. It is even more striking because in 2013, before Modi took over as India's Prime Minister, the states were collecting 37% more tax in comparison to the then Manmohan Singh led central government. But as of 2021, as you can see, Modi led central government is collecting 89% more excise duty in comparison to taxes being collected by India's state governments. This, people, is the reality of the Modi government when it comes to taxing you on petrol and diesel. Contrast this with the twist the Prime Minister gave while breaking his silence over rising fuel prices. He made it sound like states, particularly the non-BJP ones, were the main villains, and he was some sort of a superhero who saved people, whereas the numbers, data, hard facts, if you value facts though, tell a completely different story. And we aren't even done yet. In point 6, we'll reveal something even more sinister. The big game that the Modi government has played when it comes to tax distribution between center and states. But I'll need your full attention, people, to understand this. Excise duty collected by the central government is divided between center and states. Center gets 59%, states get 41%. But it's not that 41% of the whole excise duty goes to the states. No. Excise duty has two components: basic excise duty and cess and surcharge component. Of these, only the revenue generated from the basic excise duty component is divided between center and states, whereas the central government gets to keep all the money, all the revenue that is generated by any cess or surcharge levied, imposed on petrol and diesel. Now, listen to this very carefully. There is a big game, a trick that the Modi government has been playing with state governments since 2017. In 4 years, between 2017 and 2021, the share of basic excise duty component in the excise duty has decreased by 40%. At present, 96% of the excise duty imposed on petrol is in the form of cess and surcharge, which goes entirely to the coffers of the Modi government. So, if in April 2017, when excise duty on petrol was roughly 21 rupees, states were getting roughly 4 rupees in 2017. In 2022 currently, while burden on you, that is excise duty, has increased to roughly 28 rupees, states are getting, believe it or not, only 59 paise. In 2017, states were getting almost 4 rupees per litre of petrol. Now they are getting only 59 paise. A massive reduction of states' share done by the Modi government. Hear this carefully, by an unbelievable 559%. So you see what the Modi government did there? You understood that, right? It increased its own source of income, its own exclusive pool of money, and reduced the revenue, the money in the other pool of money that it had to share with states. What a game, what a game. So in step 6, we showed you how Modi government earns roughly 27 rupees while states earn only 59 paise from excise duty each time you buy a litre of petrol. Let's compare this to pre-Modi government era. the बहुत हुई पेट्रोल की मार, अब की बार मोदी सरकार ईरा. In 2012, excise duty was 9.48 rupees. Of this, state governments used to get 2.60 rupees. So, states used to get 2 rupees more during Manmohan Singh than what they are getting under Narendra Modi, despite the fact that Modi government is charging you over 18 rupees more than what Manmohan Singh was charging you as per as excise duty on petrol is concerned. So Manmohan Singh, if you look at this way, Manmohan Singh, who was called a failed and ineffective Prime Minister by Narendra Modi, was giving more to the states and filling less into his own government's coffers, while Prime Minister Narendra Modi is doing exactly the opposite. Yet in 2012, Narendra Modi, the then Gujarat Chief Minister, called UPS petrol pricing a burden on crores of people of his state of Gujarat. I really wonder what that Chief Minister would have told Modi, the Prime Minister, after seeing our fact check. If petrol and diesel would have been brought under GST, the maximum tax rate on it would have been 28%. Whereas currently you are paying tax in the range of 42 to 50% on petrol and diesel, depending on where you're buying it from. The ruling BJP enjoys enough numbers in the GST Council. Even then, I wonder why the Prime Minister hasn't brought petrol and diesel under GST yet. Think about it. With those 7 points based in facts, we have come to the end of our fact check, people. Now you know who's the biggest beneficiary of that big fat hole in your pocket, while state governments have been left high and dry. With the evidence that we have put forward, it's amply clear that the Prime Minister spoke several half-truths. And as Benjamin Franklin once said, half a truth is often a great lie. Don't forget to share this in your WhatsApp groups, people. As I always say, we need your help to contain this massive disinformation campaign. So share it in your WhatsApp groups, on your Facebook handles, Twitter handles, Telegram channels, essentially wherever you are on social media, and help us in this fact-checking campaign that we have launched. I'll see you soon, very, very shortly. This is Sahil Murli Meghani signing off. Thank you so much for watching.
Get a sneak peek of exclusive content before everyone else. For channel members only. Memberships start at ₹89. Hit the join button below.